this is Dr. Maha from Adela's Medical Videos and Podcast. Today's episode is a bit different. This episode not only speaks to the health practitioners, but also to the public. Today, I really want to talk about a very important and emerging problem, which is the antibiotic resistance. We really need to raise the awareness. We need to talk about it. The past few days, I've been doing a lot of research and I've read a lot of studies, and I've tried to make the words as simple as possible so anybody could listen to this or watch this video, could understand and could also contribute to this very big important issue, and it's the antibiotic resistance. So I'm going to start my episode by the introduction. That is, I'm going to talk about the importance of this very big issue. Why is it important? Why is the antibiotic resistance a big issue? What is the impact of that issue? What are the causes? And finally, trying to find a solution or try to prevent the spread of this emerging problem. The resistance to antimicrobial agents, the AMR, is one of the biggest threats to the global health. In fact, it has become a major source of morbidity and mortality worldwide. Antibiotic resistance is rising to dangerously high levels in all parts of the world. Without urgent action, we are heading for a post-antibiotic era, in which common infections and minor injuries can once again kill us. Every day, common infections such as pneumonia, tuberculosis, gonorrhea are becoming harder to treat as the antibiotics used to treat them are becoming less effective. When the antibiotics were first introduced in the 1900s, it was thought that we had won the war against the microorganisms. But unfortunately, it was discovered that the microorganisms were capable to develop resistance. As antibiotics are among the most frequently prescribed classes of drugs, and it is estimated that approximately 50% of the antibiotics used in both outpatients and inpatient settings is inappropriate. The antimicrobial resistance occurs when the bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites change over time and no longer responds to the medicines. The MRSA or the MRSA is one of the most common examples. The medication loses its ability to kill the bacteria. As a result, the organism continues to grow and cause the infection in the presence of the antibiotic. Where some bacteria are naturally resistant to certain types of antibiotics, most become resistant with a natural genetic mutation or by acquiring resistance genes from other bacteria. Some might transfer their resistance traits. The misuse of antibiotics accelerates this process. Every antibiotic use has a potential public health consequence. Inappropriate use may not only harm individual patients but contribute to societal harm and leads to antibiotic resistance among the bacteria. So that was the introduction. Now let's talk about the impact of this problem. It is time the world needs to change the way it prescribes and uses antibiotics. And why is that? Let's look into some facts or the impact of this problem. Antibiotic resistance leads to longer hospital stays, higher medical costs, and increased mortality when infection can no longer be treated by first-line antibiotic. More expensive medications must be used, longer duration of illness and treatment often in hospitals, increasing the economic burden on families and societies. Moreover, the antibiotic resistance is putting achievements of the modern medicine at risk. Organ transplantation, chemotherapy, surgeries such as C-section become more dangerous without effective antibiotics for prevention and treatment of the infection. Now I'm going to talk about the causes of the antibiotic resistance. Obviously, prescribed antibiotics suboptimally up to half the times, either when not needed or with incorrect dosing or duration. So antibiotic use without prescription. Countries without standard treatment guidelines when not needed or with incorrect dosing and duration. Now, did you know that animals also get antibiotics? And that is not only to treat their infection, but to help them grow better. So the farms use antimicrobials inappropriately, usually as an attempt to improve the animal growth rather than to treat the infection. And those resistant infections can spread to humans when we consume the contaminated food. Another cause is seen in countries without standard treatment guidelines, where antibiotics can be bought without prescription, and thus they can be used, misused, overused by the public. Antibiotics are often overprescribed by the doctors as a common public psychology that if the doctor does not prescribe an antibiotic for his or her illness, that doctor is not good enough. So we need to spread the awareness and educate all people around us that antibiotic resistance is emerging due to this misuse and this misconception. COVID-19 pandemic brought an alarming increase in the antimicrobial resistance in the hospitals, with infections and deaths caused by resistant bacteria and fungi going up to 15%. The culprit might be the widespread of the antibiotic overprescription during the current pandemic. So we can prevent and control this problem as much as we can by spreading the awareness, either in radios, TVs, social medias, the ads, everywhere. Just talk about this problem, discuss it, raise this awareness, raise the awareness in the public. As steps should be taken by everybody in the society to reduce the impact and limit the spread. So the steps that can be taken by individuals is that only use antibiotics when prescribed by a certified health professional. Never demand antibiotic if your health worker says you don't need it. Always follow your health worker's advice when using the antibiotic. Never share or use a leftover antibiotic. And obviously the main thing is to prevent the infection, and that is by trying to maintain a good level of hygiene. Avoiding close contact with sick people, keeping vaccination up to date. What about health professionals? Now, the health professionals should prevent infections by ensuring that their hands, instruments, and environments is kept clean. Prescribe antibiotics only when they are needed by following the current guidelines. Report any antibiotic resistant infection to the surveillance team. Talk to the patient about how to take the antibiotic correctly, antibiotic resistance, and the dangers of the misuse. Talk and teach them about how to prevent infection. According to the U.S. Center of Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, COVID-19 pandemic brought an alarming increase in the antimicrobial resistance in hospitals, with infections and deaths caused by the resistant bacteria and fungi going up to 15%. The culprit might be the widespread of antibiotic overprescription during the current pandemic. Now, the WHO response, a global action plan on the antimicrobial resistance, was endorsed at the World Health Assembly in May 2015 has 5 strategic objectives to improve awareness and understanding of antimicrobial resistance, to strengthen surveillance and research, to reduce the incidence of infection, to optimize the use of the antimicrobial medication. Implementing antimicrobial stewardship programs paired with rapid diagnostic technologies is a common solution. Finally, all these very important points should be kept in mind by the whole public, as well as our doctors, the students, the doctors in making, the senior doctors. Everybody should work really hard. We need to understand that this problem is really big, and the speed by which the bacteria is becoming resistant is really scary. So we really need to talk about it to raise the awareness, and we really need to work hard to at least do something about this problem. So I'm ending this episode by requesting each one of you to know the importance of what's happening in this world and try to make a difference. Talk about it, raise awareness about this emerging and dangerous problem. And it's very important to see the current problem and to foresee the consequences of this very important issue, which is antimicrobial misuse. Please be aware and take the antibiotics only when required in the appropriate way. Thank you for listening and watching. See you in another episode.